一起参观西安大略大学天文台。
It is nice, but the first one that I got was those coordinates. It was very nice. Now they're getting better, but at least there's some sort of activities to see. Taken in California, and it's actually, you don't need a telescope for this picture. This is actually a pretty wide field on the sky. It's about 5 degrees on the sky. This is Antares, and these are actually the brightest stars of Scorpius.
Okay.
I like it because it's very colorful, and I like colors. I have cats. One of my cats is exactly the same color as this. This star is called Antares, so he's also called Antares. And I study astrochemistry, astrophysics of interstellar medium. So all the different processes that we study, things like Rayleigh scattering, H-alpha emission, all those things are represented in this picture. So entrance foyer on the wall here. So some of these are really old. This is a picture from actually it says 1925, but it's 1923 actually. A picture taken of the Andromeda galaxy just as a meteor happens to.
Oh, I see. I said, what are the plane?
No.
Not a plane.
But they just celebrated the centennial of this picture. It's a picture taken in the Czech Republic. So anyway, so we have two demos. The first demo is how we detect planets around other stars. So John and his talk yesterday showed the transit method. And so what we have here is a model for the Kepler Space Telescope, and in here is a photometer. So the only thing that the photometer can do is measure the brightness of light. So it's measuring the brightness of this star here, and as a planet moves around, it blocks some of the light, and you actually get to see a dip. If you put on the second planet, you'll see the second dip is deeper. There you go. And now what you see is here it's actually saturated. That's because we have the light, so normally you do the demo without the lights. And so a lot of things that you can determine from planets you can get from this as well. This period tells you essentially what the distance is between the planets and the star. The depth of the dips tells you something about the size, nothing about the mass necessarily. And so different planets go at different rates. If you see them like this in this configuration where they actually go in front of their star, you can also measure the Doppler velocity of the star itself. That then tells you what the mass of the planets are. That tells you something about the density of the planets. So that's how we can figure out that some planets are most likely gas giants or more smaller terrestrial rocky planets based on density. So it's a very quick and easy demo. It looks very easy, but it took a long time to actually make this model work. The other thing that we have here is a spectroscopy demo. You probably all know. If you're interested, you can take a pair of these beautiful diffraction glasses. And so if you use these to kind of look around, you see lots of colors. And so what I tell people is that they probably know or have heard that white light is made up of all possible colors. Here you see the white light and you see the spectra, you see all possible colors. Whereas if you go to individual colors, the only part that you see in the spectrum, of course, is that color. There's a little bit of bleed sometimes between neighboring colors. And if you pay close attention, you see that exactly where each color appears in the spectrum is slightly different in terms of location. And if you put them all together, you see that very well. And then you nicely see that white light is indeed made up of all possible colors. Then we also have some gas discharge tubes. This is hydrogen. Unfortunately, there's something going on with the hydrogen. It's not very bright, but you should see essentially three bright lines. The red one is H-alpha. There's like a green one that's H-beta, the blue one that's H-gamma. But there's a problem with that gas tube, so that doesn't work well. Oh, this one. This is helium. So the spectrum of helium is very clear, a very bright yellow line. And because you don't see all the colors, that gives each of these tubes their characteristic color. This is mercury, so you can see the spectrum of mercury. And then here's neon, so you can see the spectrum of neon. So it's a quick, easy demo for spectroscopy. There's a better way to do this. So for a few years, I also organized Science Rendezvous, which is a big science festival here on campus. And kind of one aspect originated as a bit of a challenge because some of my colleagues who work on the really cool stuff like black holes, that sort of things, they were at some point jokingly saying, "Ha ha ha, good luck," coming up with like a fun and exciting demo about spectroscopy. And so when we had the International Year of Light, I was like, So what I did on Science Rendezvous is hand out these diffraction classes to like, how many people we had? Last year we had 4,500 people. So you hand out diffraction classes in the evening, and then you shoot the fireworks. And so before shooting off the fireworks, I trained the kids how to recognize sodium, barium, and strontium. And so, it's a customized fireworks show, so I kind of know what they're going to shoot up. There's a red one going, and they're like, it's barium! Or strontium. No, barium is green. So if you can put the glasses back here, it would be great. This is a picture I was talking about upstairs. So this is Goldbrook, who was the curator at the time of the observatory, sitting upstairs in the opposite chair. We found back all this furniture. We found back this is precession demonstration model. We didn't find back the telescope, but these are some paintings that we also found back. And so if you enter this room, it's like entering a time machine. Because essentially everything in here is 1940s. So other things that we found is this demonstration model. I used this in class until 2015. It's made of like a tractor steering wheel and a soup can, ping pong ball. It still works. And as you rotate, the Earth orbits the Sun, the Moon orbits the Earth. And it's impressive in the number of phenomena it actually explains. Because if you notice, the axis of the Earth is always pointing in the same direction in space, so that's why we have seasons. Right now, direct sunlight hitting the northern hemisphere, so you have summer in the northern hemisphere. But half a year later is the other way around. Now you have winter. It also shows phases of the moon, right, where you go from new moon, where everybody on the day side of the moon sees the dark side of the moon, to first quarter moon, where everybody on this side of the Earth sees that the right-hand side is illuminated, to full moon, but also, right now, the moon actually disappeared in the shadow of the Earth, so that's a lunar eclipse. And then 2 weeks later, you actually see the shadow of the moon on the Earth's surface, that's the solar eclipse. Now people say like, wait a minute, eclipses are very rare, right? So what are the odds that you get like a lunar eclipse and then a solar eclipse right after, right before? The answer is surprisingly 100%. Happens all the time. You also saw the April 8 eclipse. Well, on March 25th there was a lunar eclipse. Who saw that one? That was very impressive. So, he got all this right, and those are some subtle effects in essentially orbital dynamics, but he got it all right. I wouldn't know how to make this right now. This actually predates the observatory. It's built in 1938 by that curator, so that's the guy in the picture. He also built this model of the Hale telescope in Palomar. He made that mosaic of the moon, and half of what's in that cover cone there. So. The other thing of note is this is a replica, it's a 3D print actually of the Dresden meteorite. That's a meteorite that fell on July 11, 1939. And Dresden is a little town about 100 kilometers west of here. But it was such a bright meteor that that same guy, Goldbrook, actually saw it from this campus. Said like, oh my god, this must be a meteorite. Sure enough, this fell in a beet field, nearly killing the farmers' wife and kids. He dug it up, dug itself about 2 meters deep. At that time, it was the largest meteorite in Canada. He was pressured to sell it by 2 businessmen to sell it for $4. And then they approached Western, asked like, hey, would you be interested to study this for research? Western said, sure. And then they're like, oh, it's going to cost you $1,000. And so Western refused, but then they threatened that they would cut it in pieces and then sell it by a piece. So London Life Insurance Company mediated. They bought it for $7 million, donated to Western. We had it on display for a while at the observatory. That's a picture that was just from 1940. Then London Life wanted to have their meteorite back, so we got a plaster cast of the meteorite. And then they wanted that back in the 80s, and then so since then we were meteorite-less at the observatory. But then in 2015, I thought, you know what, wouldn't it be nice if we have the original meteorite and the plaster cast side by side in the original display case. Now, this is the original meteorite in my car. It's on display actually in geology. It doesn't look like a freshly fallen meteorite anymore because they've cut pieces off, they've put coatings on. The plaster cast actually looks much better than the picture that we have from 1940. So before returning everything, brought it back to engineering to get a 3D scan. This 3D print took 8 full days to print. And then it took my artist about 5 months to get all the texture right, get the painting right, so that it looks like freshly fallen meteorite. As we go upstairs, you can have a quick look in here. So this is our telescope control room from Elginfield Observatory, 20 kilometers north of here. So that smells and looks like essentially the late 60s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that telescope is on that picture over there. That's actually a pretty big telescope, like a 1 meter diameter, but it was decommissioned in 2014. So this is our flagship telescope. It's actually from 1940, made by Perkin Elmer Corporation. That was then a brand new company. In 1940, they actually started being more interested in like spy stuff for the war. But then later on, they would make the gold visor for Neil Armstrong when he went to the moon, and also the mirror of the Hubble Space Telescope. So in that sense, this telescope is the grandfather of the Hubble Space Telescope. Okay. This is the business end of our telescope, so it's a 10-inch set of lenses. There's 2 lenses in here actually. So 25.4 centimeter diameter. This thing is heavy. We took off this lens assembly a few years ago to clean, and I could just about lift this. And I do work out, don't judge me. And it's because these are heavy, they actually don't make them very big. The biggest ones ever made with lenses have a diameter of 1 meter. Okay. This is now the largest refracting telescope in the country that you can actually visit. There's reportedly one amateur that has a 12-inch refractor, but I've not seen it, and I don't think you can get access to it either. It came with the bottom telescope here, that's actually a camera, Schmidt camera. The one on the top is actually a larger telescope, 12-inch diameter, that was added in the 60s to do studies of variable stars. And so with telescopes, you don't really care about the length. The length of this telescope is approximately the focal length of this objective lens. That's 4.386 meters. And so that's why they are long. This is a mirror telescope, so that's a parabolic mirror at the end with a small hole in the center. Light gets reflected back to secondary mirror right here. And so you fold up the light pads so you can make it more compact. Mirrors you can make much more lightweight. All you need is a frame, and then there's like a micro-sized layer of aluminum on there. So lightweight, you can actually change the surface to adapt to changing sky conditions. And so it's another telescope. Actually, these ropes for controlling the telescope were upgraded, didn't come with the original. But so it's a telescope you kind of need to know your way around the sky and actually point them. The dome is also quite old, but now it's motorized. So that's the shutter. I cannot open it because it's raining. If we point to a different telescope, and so because it's freely rotating, which also means it's freestanding, so it's not attached to the building. So if you're not careful and you open the door and the wind comes there, it will actually lift off the way, which will be bad. So we can't use the telescope right now. We have a smaller telescope here. Nothing interesting to see in the sky, but there is this adorable nest of young red-tailed hawks that you can look at if you want to. But I think it's about time.